What did we just do, Luke?
It's called reset breath. Yeah.
What just happened?
So your body naturally released DMT from a breath hold. This is a modality that my friend Herb Young taught me a couple of years ago. And, I've been doing lots of different things to heal my nervous system. A lot of my spirituality moved towards nervous system regulation because it's like you can study philosophies, mysticism, but if you don't have a regulated nervous system, what does it like ultimately matter? I want to be able to function at a high level. So I got really deep into nervous system work a few years ago. My business partner, Dr. Greg, is a functional medicine doctor, chiropractic, and he does a thing called network. And that was like my first big door into another realm of what's possible, like how many levels of regulation we can actually experience. And then when Herb did that technique on me, I was blown away. 10 breaths. I've had a full DMT release, and I've had a lot of experiences with plant medicine and, cathartic states of healing. And I was just amazed at how quick and efficient it was. And I felt extremely in my body and deeply regulated from the experience after. And I knew that something left from the experience. So
yeah, I have no idea what just happened. You're explaining, I was asking you to do this breath work and you said, I'll take you through one instead. Yeah. It's a DMT release in 10 breaths. And I went, 10 breaths. Yeah. Next minute I'm out shaking, having this massive panic attack.
Did it feel like a panic attack?
Well, not panic. No, I didn't really know what was happening. It was a level of, I'm not sure what just happened, but I kind of have trust because it's all in the body.
Yeah.
Like it's breath, right? It's not medicine that you're taking. It's just your breathing, which is powerful.
Yeah.
Talk to me about central nervous system regulation. What's the central nervous system do with our body?
I mean, there's a lot of different perspectives on it if you're coming from a more scientific or neurological, if you're coming from, say, like a traditional Chinese medicine worldview or Ayurvedic worldview. There's something in Ayurveda that I really love. There's a quote that says, the essence of plant is starlight, the essence of man is plant. So I look at the nervous system as a plant. It's actually like a tree, and it connects. It's the bridge between reality from my perspective. Our nervous system is literally the negotiation between the invisible worlds and our physical universe. And so it's like how we gauge reality in a very physical, neurological, emotional, spiritual way.
The central nervous system is a tree.
Yeah. You look at the nervous system as a tree.
What does that mean?
So if you look at the way that the branches are, if you were to take like I don't remember that show they had in New York years ago where they broke the body into different segments, like the fascia and the tendons and then the nervous system. You see it just like looks like this floating tree. It has all these little branches and neurological neuron endings, and you look at a tree without leaves on it in the fall, looks very similar, or to the bronchi of the lung, right? The microcosm, macrocosm, that whole idea that everything in nature is reflected in our body as above, so below. Like we can find, you look into your iris, it looks like a black hole in space or something. There's this cool symmetry of how the body's intelligence and nature's intelligence are one. And so,
you reference a lot in your content around being kind of one with nature in a sense, or nature has the answers. When you reference that and you refer to things like the central nervous system being a tree, what do you mean by this, and what's your relationship with humans and nature?
So I think we were conditioned out of the natural symbiotic relationship that we have with nature, that we are an extension of nature. Alan Watts says, just like trees apple, the planet peoples. It's like we're not separate, but we've been conditioned to feel and experience separation from nature. So it's the truth of who we really are in our essence as a physical being in this universe. We're an aspect of nature. And if you look at the world as from a whole centric model, just like a body has liver cells and lung cells, the people are we're the organ of people on the body of Earth, and the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom and all these different beautiful interconnected ecosystems are different cells of that expression.
Yeah. You posted a thing that said, no wonder the world feels insane. We keep trying to solve existential loneliness with pharmaceuticals and perfection instead of poetry and play. And then you wrote at the bottom, and nature.
Yeah. I added "and nature." Yeah, someone else's meme that I like tagged on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What
Yeah.
what does that mean to you in terms of we're trying to solve existential loneliness with pharmaceuticals and perfection instead of poetry and play?
Yeah, I think that the nature of the soul wants to experience and express beauty. It wants to redescribe the world around us. And poetry, art, play it comes from our natural state of joy. That's an expression of soul consciousness, right? And that's something that makes us all connected. We all have the capacity to create some kind of form of art, have some kind of natural play. And the loneliness that we're experiencing is because we're in the illusion of separation. We're experiencing the illusion that we're a separate being from this whole universe, from this whole natural world. And then once you're in separation, you're going to experience loneliness, which is different than aloneness. Aloneness is a sense of you exist, but it's not like an overwhelming, consuming loneliness, which I think is a symptom of that disconnection. Aloneness is normal. It's part of growing up spiritually. You're going to experience a level of aloneness at times on your journey. And then, there's like a kind of a meme that goes around like from alone to all one. There is like a oneness that you can find through your own aloneness because the whole universe lives inside of you and you live inside the whole universe. There's no separation. We just experience the feeling of separation.
What part of your journey led you down this route? What was something in your history that and in your past that has made you want to deep dive into spirituality and understanding all of the things and teaching the things that you teach now?
Yeah, for me, I had a lot of early memories. Like as a kid, I had these weird things. I was obsessed with Egypt from like 7. I didn't know why I was obsessed with Egypt. I had, near-death experience when I was 4, and I've had a deep interest in altered states of consciousness from a very, very early age. So I was introduced to psilocybin when I was 14 and Castaneda and those kind of books. My parents were psychologist hippies, and so there was a lot of material in their library that was just like popped out. So I was kind of aware of it. And then martial arts became my spirituality. I grew up in a kind of unsafe neighborhood in New York and experienced a lot of like, just like it was natural in the culture to get jumped or, it wasn't like, fighting and that kind of stuff was normal in my neighborhood. So I didn't feel safe. And so I started martial arts to find safety in my body and find safety in this reality. And then martial arts kind of opened the gateway to like what's possible in altered states of consciousness, like the flow states that you get into, the self-cultivation, how to focus the mind, how to control the breath, and start to feel a sense of center within you that's not just up in the mind, but like you can actually locate in the body. So that kind of was like my introduction to spirituality or the exploration of consciousness on some level. And then I just had experience after experience after experience that catalyzed a deep investigation. I have a very investigative nature, so I want to get to the bottom of things and how they work. That's kind of my nature. But the big catalyst for me was losing my brother-in-law on 9/11. So that was like a big trauma. I was 2 weeks into my freshman year of college, and that loss sort of catapulted me into asking some really deep questions about life, death, purpose, meaning, these kinds of things.
What were some of the questions you were asking yourself then?
What happens when we die? Why someone this good and loving would be taken in that way? What's the point of being here? These kinds of questions, for sure. Yeah.
Is it something that happens when you experience a loved one pass? Do you think it's different, it hits differently when it's someone so close to you?
Oh yeah. I mean, you're sharing a bond that, just even on a tribal level, when your body no longer has access to someone who was once animated and now they're inanimate. But the spiritual aspect that opened up as a result of that is that I got to experience like the feeling and the knowing of him beyond his body. That was part of how my paradigm shifted around death. So in my first sweat lodge I ever did, in the third round of the lodge in the ceremony, he came to me as as real as you and I are here and took my hand. And he's like, "I'm really proud of you. Keep going." And I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed because I felt the love between our souls that existed beyond, the form that I knew him in. And it shattered my views on death completely.
What's a sweat lodge?
The sweat lodge is a ceremony it's also called a temescal, and the Lakota tradition is in Nipi Kagwa. And Nipi means, Kagwa means sacred go inside place. It basically mimics a womb. There's 16 ribs of the mother, so to speak. These are branches that they soak and they bend, and then they cover it with blankets, and then the fire warms up stones, and then the stones are brought inside the sweat lodge, and then the medicine man or woman leading the ceremony will pour water over the stones in this pitch black with only the glow of the stones, and you kind of go into trance states, and their ancestral songs are being sung to go into types of healing. And each direction, you go through 4 seasons in a traditional lodge. Each season is a different stage of life, or a different element, or has a different medicine to it. So the 3rd round is usually, like in the tradition that I was in, is around like healing for yourself, what you need for healing. Sometimes you pray for your loved ones, each round has something different. So that round was I had a lot of grief that was stuck, that I hadn't moved yet. And that was, I unlocked some grief that I didn't have the tools to move. And I got to really grieve, but from a very connected space in there, because there's something about being hugged in the warmth, and you're in this womb space that you feel safe. It's kind of the whole purpose of the ceremony is you're going in and you're kind of rebirthing yourself.
What's happening when that's happening? Is there science or new science or any form of things that we can lean on to understand what's going on when you're in a sweaty room that's dark with a bunch of people and some interesting music that you haven't heard before?
I don't know the studies from like a scientific standpoint, what people would measure.
Well, it's obviously probably not science, but it'd be like some level of new science, right? Like some form of of knowledge, I guess. I'm just fascinated to know, because for someone that hasn't done that,
right,
or someone that hasn't even done whatever we just did up there, like for anyone listening, like to give this context, like when he's saying a DMT release, we did 10 breaths, and I was out. And then I'm shaking, having like a whole, I didn't know, I was out, so I didn't know.
Cathartic release.
And then I'm back and I'm like, what just happened here? And all I did was 10 breaths. And so the reason I'm resurfacing that is because what I'm feeling is there's probably a level of people that maybe haven't experienced even that at all.
Right.
And
no frame of reference.
And we're talking about sweat lodges that have all these ceremonies and all these different things that's going on in there. I guess what I'm interested to understand is like, ultimately, what's the goal here? Like, what are we trying to get out of doing these things and leaning into nature and spirituality? And where are we going, like from A to B? Like, what's the goal, and what's this journey that we're going on when participating and doing these things?
I think it's really important to acknowledge that everyone's journey is different. First and foremost, we have unique sets of challenges and unique sets of gifts. And the path of unlocking your gifts and meeting your challenges is going to be different, but there's shared parallels of the human experience, whether it's archetypally or what I've found fascinating with Sweat Lodge and indigenous technology is that if you go into any lineage and you go back through time, there was a version of this. We all had songs around the fire. We all had a way of going into trance state to release trauma. So there's a body of work. I forget the name of the somatic teacher, but he uses this analogy that in nature, when a lion chases a gazelle and the gazelle escapes, it will do this like shiver and then just go on with its life. If you got chased by a lion, you would be looking over your shoulder like every day, unless you had a way of processing the trauma of like getting chased by a lion. But many, many people around the world have the stored memory in their body of some type of trauma through their lineage, where they had that sensation of needing to look over the shoulder, so to speak, and no way of releasing the trauma, no way of releasing the memory that's stored in the body. And so I think from my perspective, part of the goal is to become more of the truth of who we are. And the more of the truth of who we are is nature. There is a version of it that is essence, not just the sort of adapted ways that we've survived our environments or our families, or in the modern world, we've adapted to nature. We've changed. We've taken control as much as we think we can, for as long as we think it can. But obviously, we have experiences, and we see it happening all the time now from wildfires, other things where we don't actually have control. Nature is more powerful.
So if we think about trauma here,
yeah,
something happened to me, and I get, when someone taps me on the shoulder or puts their hand on me when I'm not expecting it, I shake and I jolt.
Right.
Say someone like just puts their hand on my leg or something and I'm not expecting it, I'll like do a big jump.
Right.
From an event that happened. If someone's noticing like a thing, a common like that I just gave you, right?
Yeah.
What's the process? And obviously it's nuanced. Everyone's stories, everyone's challenges are different. I understand that. But is there any blanket approaches or any tools and resources we can use in the event that we discover something about us like this to help, I guess, release that? Because I don't want to jolt every time that someone touches me, right? I would love to be able to figure out how we resolve that and what that could look like.
Right. Do you train in any martial arts? Is that...
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I know what you're talking about. Is I had that in my body as well for a long time, and even the point where like I had a girlfriend in college like jump on my back out of nowhere, and I almost like flipped her over my back and elbowed her in the face as like an automatic response, just kind of like a hypervigilance, where some part of your body is anticipating threat from the outside world. Right. And so the first stage of healing trauma is acknowledging that it exists. Oh, I have this thing that I do. And like being in relationship with that, not denying it, not, pretending it's not there. That's the first stage of healing anything, is being in acceptance of it and noticing it and really being honest about it. If we're not honest about the things that we're challenged with, we can't heal them, we can't address them, we just brush it under the carpet, right? So that's definitely the first phase, is like, if you want to get more regulated, be honest when you're dysregulated. Oh, I'm feeling dysregulated right now. Can I be honest with that part of my nervous system that's like freaking out, looking around the room, is in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn? Can I be honest with that part of my nervous system? That's the first stage of healing it, is acknowledging it. And then there are various tools. What I found was the most supportive to my journey, and I had CPTSD, lots of really intense trauma, lots of really gnarly things that happened to me in my lifetime. And I needed the presence of another soul who was safe enough to be with me as I accessed those feelings, those places in myself, so that I could effectively grieve. And energy moves through sound, through tears, through that kind of cathartic shaking that can happen when we go into trance. So there's a few ways that trauma actually moves and alchemizes and metabolizes. Sometimes being witnessed and just having another being there. I just watched this Marvel movie, and there was this character who like had a history of meth abuse, and it was like it was so brilliant. And like in the thing, you're going through all these shame rooms, and like people are having to look at their deepest hidden shame. And I'm like, wow, this is actually really deep and profound, because most human beings are going to avoid their shame at all costs. But like and I don't mean to spoiler alert for if you want to watch Thunderbolts, I'm going to give a spoiler. Is that like part of what helped him heal was like having the presence of other people, just being there with him in his pain, just there with him. And the quality of presence that we bring, we don't make it about us. We don't try to fix, we're just there with the other. And that's part of like the therapeutic process or the healing process that I've learned over the years, without any of the fancy, shaking the feathers or, whatever, just being with someone while they're accessing their pain in a way that the pain is undeniable and it's actually coming up and it has a space to be expressed, experienced, felt fully with the presence of another soul. That was part of what healed me.
Yeah. So two elements there. The first one being acknowledging it and appreciating it. Second one being having people around you just to be in the presence. One thing that I would imagine is that there is a fear and a lack of intimacy and trust with people around us that we don't feel like we can be that open, honest, and have people there to be able to share those times with.
Right.
And so I'm not sure how easy it would be for a lot of people going through traumatic experiences to be able to fulfill that second thing, which is the key thing that you were just explaining.
100%, it is a privilege to heal trauma. It is a privilege. You have to have some degree of privilege in some form to have a safe space. Once we get off the battlefield, then we can grieve. And so a lot of people are still in the battlefield. So the step is taking that conscious choice of moving towards getting off the battlefield. That means finding a place that is actually safe. And sometimes that's hard in the beginning. It's something that's built over time with some people's nervous systems.
But this so-called battlefield is so subjective, right?
Exactly.
You can't, there's no black and white line, climb this fence and there's color on the other side.
Hence it's unique for everyone.
And so the problem with resolving this is there actually isn't a goal to strive towards, because what does the battlefield look like?
Right.
I guess what's an interesting topic to discuss is how can we use certain mental frames to be able to change our perception so that the battlefield doesn't last as long. Because I kind of look at this, right? I mean, there's different extremities of trauma, and I'm a privileged 23-year-old white male that hasn't been through probably as extreme traumas as a lot of people. I'm very grateful for this. There's things that have happened that I have little twitches and stuff, but it doesn't affect me in my day-to-day life, and I'm very grateful for that. But I guess the way I'm just picturing pain, challenge, hardship is I kind of have this analogy where I imagine someone's entering a dark tunnel, and that tunnel is dark. It's very dark, and they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Sure.
But they need to have trust that there is light at the end of the tunnel and take steps in the dark, trusting that there's going to be light.
Right.
But the problem with this is a lot of people enter a tunnel, they don't believe there's light, so they pull up a chair and sit down.
Yeah.
And there's two options. Yeah. You pull up the chair, you sit down in the tunnel, and guess what? It doesn't get any brighter because it's closed at one end and you can't see the light at the other.
Yeah.
Or you just keep taking steps in the dark, trusting that you will get to the light. And they're the only two options. So if we know that one of them guarantees you're going to be in the dark, then we've kind of got to trust in that process. Easier said than done. But I wonder if there's any mental frames that can allow us to have the courage to take those steps, even though we have no idea when the light's going to be.
That's a very powerful analogy and very accurate, I think, of the early stages of the healing journey, or a phase of healing. And I would say that, when you share about that, you're not affected by the trauma. I think most people in the West are unaware of how they're affected by their trauma.
Yeah.
They're well adapted. So we can still have trauma. We just don't know how it's affecting us until a breakup happens and you're like, why do I feel like a 2-year-old infant that feels like his world is crumbling because this woman left? That's a trauma. That's an abandonment trauma, right? So it's different for everybody. And just because someone else is experiencing a more radical form of trauma doesn't invalidate the trauma that someone like yourself might be negotiating, right?
Yeah, you adapt your life based on the trauma.
Right.
I say that it's not affecting me, but the reality is if I twitch every now and then, it's probably a sign from my body to say, mate, this actually is affecting you.
There's something here. Right. And if and this is the conversation I really want to have, because trauma is what makes us all connected in a very strange way. And we can all learn to have empathy for it. We're all negotiating some percentage of ancestral epigenetic trauma in our nervous systems, childhood, and for some people it goes beyond this lifetime if we want to get into the multidimensional side of things, which is a bit of a rabbit hole. But to come back to the tunnel, because I see your intent is to like offer some value to our listeners of like, hey, if you're at the edge of the tunnel and you're scared of going in there and there's only two options, what's the thing that's going to help them feel more confident going in? Is that I think that there's three things that happen when we're about to go into a dark tunnel, or we find ourselves in a dark tunnel. Is that there's some part of it's like, I can't do this anymore. Like the version of my life a version of what I'm experiencing, I just can't do it anymore. And you find the like intolerance of it. Like, I can't take this anymore energy. And you take that and you turn that into a type of fire that brings you through. Or you get so clear on your goal on the other side and something in your soul sparks and you're like, I need to do this thing because it's my purpose or it's my passion, or if I don't give it to myself, it's just too painful to not move towards it. And then that becomes your light on the other side of the tunnel, even if you can't see it, because you feel that spark. So I think and sometimes it's a combination of like, I can't take this anymore and I need to move towards this thing. You know, it's okay to just want to seek relief, but comfort is not relief. It's not the same thing.
Comfort is not relief.
No.
Comfort kind of, comfort is short-term validation. It's kind of an instant calmness, but probably compounds the problem even more because you get older and not one step closer to solving any of the things that you're going through, right?
Yeah.
And so you age longer. So then from a mental frame standpoint, the more comfort you seek might be easier to deal with now because it's less confronting, but it's going to be extremely confronting because you're going to get older and you're going to look back at your life and go, holy fuck,
yes.
I have not resolved this because I didn't have the courage to.
Right.
Interesting. I wonder then, what's a mental frame that we can do? Because it's awesome to be aware of this problem and that fact that there's nuance and everyone has their own problems.
Right.
But I can't help but wonder what the positive of dwelling on something is. Like, for example, if we talk about this, how I get tapped on the shoulder, I jolt.
Yeah.
Clearly it affects me.
Mm-hmm.
If I then take that and go, fuck, this trauma is just affecting me, and I live in that,
yeah,
I look at that and like I'm sitting in the tunnel. I pulled up a chair, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I go like, the reason I say it doesn't affect me is because I don't want to believe that it affects me at all. And if I genuinely, fundamentally feel overall happy with myself, I've got progression in my life, I've got great connection in my life, I'm fit and healthy,
right.
I'm grateful to be here, I have true fulfillment.
Right.
Why would I let a little jitter in my life get in the way of all of that and consume my mind?
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to live in this frame of like, and please tell me if you think that this is a thing that might be limiting for me. But I feel like this frame serves me in the sense of going like, I feel like this is, my life's pretty good. I don't feel like I'm doing something wrong. Yes, I got presented with some hardship at some point in my life. I'm lucky to be here, but I have this little thing that plays on with me.
Sure.
Do you think that there's an importance and an emphasis on going, let's figure out how we resolve this before progressing any further? Or do you think, okay, while momentum's hot, let's do this thing in my life, let's keep going?
Yeah, I think there's a big myth in like the healing personal development world that you can't do it while you're also doing the things. Like, in fact, sometimes...
Yeah, like you don't have to drop everything.
Yeah, like you don't need to be fully resolved to move forward towards something that you're working towards. A lot of people will wait like, no, I'm not ready or I'm not resolved yet. So I see...
Because they're scared of confrontation. It's quite confronting opening that can of worms.
Well, whatever it is for them, there's usually a set of feelings that we have to face. That's the simple matter-of-fact version of it, is like there's usually something uncomfortable that you have to feel. That's like the very simple version of it. But inside of the lived experience of having that, like that pocket of emotion could be terrifying for someone, whatever that is. And so it's kind of like, the way that I think about it is, can you make space for it without looping? But if you avoid it, it's also compounding, right? Like what you're saying. So I think something one of my mentors would say a lot is trouble worth having. You know, when you come up against the trouble worth having in relationship, for example, you have this thing, you trigger each other in a certain way, and I could deal with that in multiple ways. I could beat myself up, like, oh, why, what, you know, this is all me. I could blame my partner, say it's all her, or I can discover what it's trying to teach me, show me, and then take self-responsibility for where it lives inside of me, like my part of that thing, right? So I think in the personal development world, there can be this tendency to loop on something and like almost go get lost in the inquiry. And then the other side, there could be this bypass thing where like, we just like, oh, if I just ignore it, it'll magically resolve itself. You know, and I think there's a middle path with this stuff,
Yeah.
where you don't need to be consumed by it, but if you don't address it, it does have some energy or power that could be freed up to be used for creating or used for something beneficial in your life.
I remember being on a podcast and the host asked me a question. He said, "Do you think trauma is a regressor or a progressor?" And it was an interesting question. It got me thinking. And the thought that came to my mind straight away was, are you a hero or a villain? And it just reminded me of that great quote from Alex Hormozy. He says, I don't know if it's from Alex Hormozy, but I've heard it from Alex Hormozy. He says, heroes and villains both come from the same backstory, pain.
Right.
He's like, the hero says, the world hurt me, I'm not going to let it hurt anyone else. Yeah. And the villain says, the world hurt me, I'm going to hurt everyone else.
Right.
Heroes use pain, villains are used by it.
Right.
And I think when I look at my life, the most life-changing moments for me in my life have been the low times. So if that's my pattern, I know that when I get presented with a low time, whether it is trauma, hardship, breakup, a person's done me wrong, thing definitely didn't go to plan, or I really wanted something and I set these massive expectations and they all got slammed in my face and I had to get back up when no one was watching. All of those times are the most life-changing times of my life, because I allowed myself to go, this is going to define me. I'm going to let this be fuel to put in my car and drive to the shops and not burn a house down.
That's it.
And it's like we get given these fuels and we can choose how we want to use it. And I like this idea of being able to take these terms like trauma and like pain and like challenge and all of these things and kind of go, whatever you want to label it, whatever bow you want to put on this box, let's figure out a way to make this serve us, because 100%. Let's just focus on the things that we can control.
150% it's fuel. 150%. It's real alchemy happens when we transform pain.
What do you mean?
Alchemy, like the classic term of alchemy, turning lead into gold. Lead could be considered the pain or the trauma, and you turn it into gold, you turn it into medicine, and becomes something like the hero's journey. Like you said, you turn something that really challenged you into a way that you're now serving. Now, what's important is that alchemical process of taking this thing that has showed up in your reality that you cannot ignore. It's in your world. You pushed it aside, you tucked it away, you've tried to get rid of it, you've tried to fix it, but it's still there. It needs a different alchemy. It needs something to actually metabolize it and transform it into something else. Because energy can't be destroyed, it just transforms. And we're energy beings. We literally are. And you can measure our bioelectric energy. We're electromagnetic spiritual beings. And so emotion, which is energy in motion, is one of the most powerful forms of energy that we have. And so if we're suppressing emotions, if we're pushing trauma away, that's untapped fuel. That's untapped energy, right?
Energy is just emotion.
Emotion is energy in motion.
Energy in motion.
So what happens if we're not willing to feel our feelings? We're blocking energy.
Fuck. That's quite an unlock there. Emotion is energy in motion.
Emotion is energy in motion.
Okay.
Motion.
I'm fascinated to know about why high achievers, and you obviously work with high achievers. I'm fascinated to know why high achievers end up in ruts, because there's definitely a lot of high achievers listening to this right now, and this type A driven, hungry person. Yeah, right.
Both in the room right now.
There's not all these lights set up and not here because of any other reason. But there's this character in us, and I feel that makes you want to achieve such great things and probably opt for redlining and go nature about us. And you work with high achievers, specifically people, correct me if I'm wrong, but people that have worked so hard that they've ended up in a rut. Maybe they've been climbing the wrong ladder I don't know. What's a common thing that you find high achievers get caught in? And what are some traps that you think people get caught in and you kind of help them come out of those?
Yeah. So I had a mentor say something to me years ago when I was sort of at the height of like a really high and low, sort of mild burnout. And he talks about the type A personality, which I'm a recovering high achiever. I still achieve and expand my reality and enjoy it, but it's more fulfilling than it's ever been because the need to be and do more is no longer the driver. So the type A and the high achiever gift and challenge is the need to be and do more.
Need being the key word?
The need to be and do more.
So you're not ever satisfied with where you are right now?
Yes.
Which means you can never actually be satisfied with the present and what you have.
Correct. You might dip into moments of satisfaction if you're living some life. You're going to have moments fleeting. Of like, wow, this feels good. Or you know, like someone I know is closing really big sales and he would get the high. Excitement isn't necessarily alignment, right? We'll get these hits and we'll think that that's satisfaction or that's happiness. And then the hit, as we know, with any substance, there's a dopamine or people that have struggled with cocaine, the unsatiable nature of when a hit comes and then dips, that dip, because the hit is not sustainable. And so I think why a lot of high achievers end up in a rut is because they're chasing a high or they're trying to build the excitement to sustain this kind of ideal of themselves. And then reality kicks in and they have to face another aspect of themselves, a shadow or the inevitable dip that comes. There's no space for recovery that they've made for their body from the workout. There's no place for certain aspects of their relationship. So the things that actually matter to them, because there's unfortunately a very sad pattern for type A's, is that the people closest to them are the ones that are most hurt by them. Because they'll unconsciously and with good intent, like actually every high achiever that I've ever worked with are some of the most loving, committed, devoted, like well-intended people. So their blind spots are more challenging because of how well-intended they are. And the people closest to them suffer. They get steamrolled.
What do you mean by steamrolled?
Steamrolled means that sometimes it's difficult to take responsibility for the impact that we can have on an intimate relationship because we're putting so much life force into our business or into this version of ourselves and not being with the version that's here now. The version that's here now might have a blind spot that does something that affects someone. The version now might be neglecting the creative process in a certain way. The version now might be neglecting intimacy in the relationship, right? Whatever it is. But the high achiever, because it's so goal-oriented and it can see and it can move towards and work towards, it misses the impact that the version that they are now is actually having on the people around them.
What's the pivot for these people that are stuck in this state? Because I would imagine your approach is not forget about money, because it's like
end up making more money, but with more ease.
More money with more ease.
Yeah.
What's the unlock that makes people make more money with more ease?
They meet a part of themselves that they've locked in the closet and hid away that the high achiever aspect is compensating for.
And what does that look like? And what are the traits that that person in the closet consists of?
The not good enough, the shame, the very hidden shame, the unworthiness, the fear of failure, the fear of success. It's different for everybody, but that's some of the markings of the type A, is that not enough or not good enough.
I feel like a lot of people feel that.
Sure. The high achiever goes about resolving that in a very, very different way because they're meant to create shit in the world. It's like the wound becoming the gift, but at some point you have to integrate it. So it's not the main driver anymore. Like I know people that built an entire brand, an entire business on top of their wound. What if they were doing it from the place of their soul energy and alignment, and not just as a way of compensating for their wound, for example?
Where does money play into this? Like, how does being driven by money play a role in these high achievers? Because I would imagine when you go and lead from the soul-led version of you, money doesn't become the primary objective, but a byproduct of the work you do. You start earning a lot of money. Because I would look at when you look at the soul-led version of you, the soul was, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but we were around before shekels was, before the, like, the energy, right? It was before there was some dollar signs. So your happiness is and your combination of peace and joy and fulfillment, it actually has nothing to do with money. The money unlocks a lot of these things that maybe can unlock these things. But then again, you can still see people on the side of the street having so much fun, or people in third world countries that have a bigger grin than you've ever had, and they've never even seen $1 in their life. Right. And so that there implies that no amount of money is ever going to make you happy. Perhaps the person you become on the way is the thing that we're not meant to be stagnant. We want to be progressive.
Right.
And I also would say that the making money is one of those journeys that probably fast tracks your growth more than a lot of people as well, more than a lot of things, right?
It's power. It's life force. It's permission slips. I look at money as permission slips.
What do you mean by that?
A lot of times people are trying to get a bunch of money to give themselves permission to do something.
What does that mean?
Well, think about maybe someone that wants to pursue their art or pursue some aspect that they know would bring them satisfaction, and they postpone it and they say, I'm going to wait until I have this much money and then I'll do the thing. It's like the money becomes symbolic as a permission slip to choose something that's actually available to you now.
But that's a backwards frame, isn't it?
That's a frame that a lot of people have.
Have, do, be.
Yeah.
Once I have these things, I'm going to be able to do these things. I'm going to be able to be that person.
Reverse it. So what you're saying is that money can't be a replacement for satisfaction, but there's something about when we build wealth and we own our value and we do some of those things that are natural initiations in the entrepreneurial journey, because I've helped a lot of healers build successful businesses. I've helped people build successful companies, but it's about where are you doing it from? And I think that there's a misconception that if you're prioritizing alignment or if you're moving from soul, that's going to somehow negatively impact your business or negatively impact your ability to make money. It just means you're placing the emphasis on where everything comes from. Source provides money. Source is not money. It's as simple as that.
When you're referencing source, what are you referencing?
That's all that is. The source of where life arises from. The source of our soul, the source of everything.
You know what I think is a great indicator on if you're letting your soul lead the way, is if there's something that gives you greater joy than earning money.
That's a beautiful indicator. But they don't have to be separate either.
Shit. That's fascinating. Wait, that's fascinating. So sorry, I'm getting hyped up over my own discoveries. So there was a key pivot in my life where things really started to change for me. I was doing okay financially, but I wasn't really, to be fair. I was making money, but I was just getting by. I was self-employed. I was in my business. I was posting content, all of this stuff. And I was so money driven. I had this identity, like I'd run these software companies, Mr. CEO guy, and I had this identity attached to me, and I thought that money was the answer. And I remember working so hard to make money, and I couldn't make it. I'd hop on these calls with these brands and they would fucking not even follow through on anything. And I was struggling to make money so much. And I remember I was on this walk, and I'll never forget this day. I was on this walk with this girl that I was seeing at the time, and she didn't even know what I did as well. She didn't know anything about social media. I met her at a cafe, and I never told her. I just would deflect the question. So she didn't even know anything about what I did. And we were on a walk at sunrise, and we were at this hill in the Gold Coast watching the sunrise, and I just had my arms around her, and we were standing on this rock. And as the sun was rising, I looked behind me on the hill, and I lock eyes with this lady. She was in her 40s, and she was holding her son, her 7-year-old son, just had her arm around her son. And we lock eyes with this. I lock eyes with this girl. The first words that leave her mouth, she said, "You've saved my life on multiple occasions." She was shocked. She couldn't believe that she saw me. And I was just posting content every single day of me. Wow. I was posting content every single day, and I'd gained a lot of notoriety and popularity through this content I was posting. And you could tell that she was broken. She's in her 40s. She's holding her 7-year-old son. I go up there. The first thing I just do is I give her a hug. I hear about her story. I find out she's going through a massive divorce. She's now like out of her home. She's living in her van with her son. And she's had the most traumatic thing. And she said, I look forward to your videos every day. I don't know if I'd be here without you. And I hear this on this thing. And I remember this girl that I'm with, firstly, is freaking out. She's like, who are you? Like, what are you doing? But by walking down from the thing after that, I'm shaking. I'm fully shocked. And I remember saying to the girl, who again knew nothing about me, saying to the girl, I was like, that's what I need to do. I was like, make more people feel like that. And if I just make more people feel like that, if I just focus on impact, make more people feel like that, the money will come.
Right.
And I remember that day, it all switched for me. All I did was just impact.
Right.
Weeks later, podcast blew up, started making all this money, sponsorships come in, all these things change, whole life changed.
Right.
And it's this pivot of realizing that when I needed the money and I obsessed over money, what happened with that is when you need something, you give off some disgusting smell.
Right.
The energy is a horrible thing.
Yeah.
And
it gives your power away.
I gave my power away.
Yeah.
And the freedom there was realizing that there's actually things far greater than money. And my lens now has like removed money from all pedestal possible. And it's just this transactional commodity thing. Then it's this energy that comes and goes, right?
Yeah.
And perhaps it's a sign that you're letting your soul lead the way when things excite you far greater than earning shekels in business.
I think you've tapped in on something. I got chills when you were sharing that story. I had an experience where I closed my coaching practice after years, and I made a commitment to myself that I'm going to see if life self-organizes to take care of me, and I'm not going to do anything for money. And I went into a complete sabbatical for 1.5 years and just let life self-organize to take care of me. So I wouldn't do anything for money that I wouldn't do for free. And I made this as an experiment in my consciousness. I just came to this point where I was like, okay, I'm just going to see what happens, because I want to feel the things that I would do if there was no money on the planet. I would still be doing this. Right. And so I did that. And some really cool things happened, because I went from that like high achiever, 10 clients a day, live events, producing festivals, like all the different things that I would push myself to do, to now being in this completely restful state of non-doing and just being. And what would show up out of the woodwork without any control or any conjuring from my identity or my personality or my business, like things would just literally like materialize. Someone came out of nowhere and was like, I want to benefactor you because of the work that I believe in. I really feel like you're here to help change systems on our planet, and I want to just gift you this money, no strings attached. And that was towards the tail end of the experiment. I mean, I went through some feelings to get to that point, but at some point, literally like more money than I'd ever made in a year of my business came in one moment as a gift, for example.
Yeah. And even if we remove the gift element, when you remove money from all pedestals and you still respect it because you respect your time, and money's stored time, but you are more willing to charge your worth as opposed to just hand things out from a state of maybe desperity because you're valuing the thing so much.
Right.
And so for me, the unlock is this realization of when you remove yourself from that thing and you're not so fixated on it,
right,
you actually isolate the value you're giving and you charge accordingly, as opposed to just putting a dollar sign on it.
What I think is the most important is the energy of reciprocity. So I have people that I do high-end work with, and I have people that I will give things away to free, because that feels right and that feels like a form of giving back, and it's correct for me. And I actually encourage a lot of the healers and coaches that I work with to make sure you have a true free offering, something that is like where you're gifting your time because of the times that we're living in and the way that our systems are created and how extractive they are and the kind of worlds that we've built that come at exploit of other parts of the world. We have to start giving back. We have to start to reciprocate back to the Mother Earth. We have to start reciprocating to disenfranchised communities. If we're not doing that, then we end up in an echo chamber of privilege. And so it's okay to earn high income, have a 7-figure business, but where are you giving back, like authentically gifting, volunteering your energy? And I think that that's really important to bring balance in the sort of entrepreneurial world. I think there's a lot of emphasis on some of these things to achieve a sort of type of status in that arena, to have that identity reaffirmed. But what is actually reciprocal? Just like you were asking, how do I know I'm in alignment with my soul? Right? How do I know if this is the correct energy exchange? Am I listening deeply enough to find like the geometry of reciprocity between me and this other being? Like, what's actually true? Okay, this person, I need to charge this much. This person, actually, you're the level of willingness that you're bringing, the commitment, the fire in your eyes to serve. I have to serve you, otherwise I'm out of integrity. So
I think it's understanding that there needs to be a level of altruism and giving in your life.
100%.
And I think that's that karma and however you want to call it, right? But I was chatting with Robin Sharma just earlier today, and we were talking about obviously giving without expecting anything in return.
Right.
And giving expecting something in return is not giving, it's a transaction.
It's completely transactional. And most of the Western world is stuck in a transactional consciousness, even down to love. Love becomes transactional.
How so?
Oh, you do this for me and then I get this back from you.
Yeah.
Not, I just love you unconditionally because...
Why do we feel like we always need to get something back from what we do?
It's deprivation. It comes from the source of separation.
What do you mean?
Deprivation? It's scarcity.
Source of separation.
Remember we were talking about how the illusion of separation, not being part of nature, not being part of the creation as a whole. So if I have to feel that I need to get something from someone, I'm experiencing a form of lack. And if I'm experiencing a form of lack, I'm in the illusion that I'm separate from all of creation.
Yeah. Do you think you can take spirituality too far?
What does that mean? What is too far?
We were chatting about on the phone yesterday or the day before around how I really love these people that are very spiritual and business savvy.
Yeah.
Like they're not, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful at all, and this is probably, but like they're not a Fruit Loop. Like they're like they can operate in society.
Yeah. Like you're not a renunciate. Yeah.
Like I think for me, I would suggest that most people listening to this are in a Western society. Sure. And they're operating in this way, and so we can't just switch off from all of this. But you do meet some people here. I mean, we can. I need to be careful with "can't," that word in
you
itself.
Can choose to take breaks. And that might be healthy too.
Yeah, choose to take breaks for sure. Like, I mean, staying in a cabin and going out into nature and just switching off your phone for a little bit and just actually sitting in your thoughts from time to time and putting pen to paper and writing down and just exploring what's going on with yourself, doing breath work, all of these things.
Right.
100%.
Tremendous value.
Extreme value. In fact, I would say it's a necessity for people to make sure that they're being reconnected and aligned with who they truly are, because we evolve and we can get set in our ways even though we're evolving, but our mind is staying the same. And I think this level of consciousness needs to evolve. So I think it's valuable, in fact, very valuable, and it should be prioritized.
So is evolving consciousness too far?
No, what I would say is going to a point where nothing matters apart from nature. And I kind of like this idea that nothing matters. It's quite freeing. Yeah. Like you don't worry about anything. There's less complaints. You're way more calm. Your central nervous system doesn't get jacked over the most ridiculous things. It's quite cool. I just don't know. I don't know if there's maybe I struggle to resonate with it, and maybe it's like this whole concept around the more I learn, the less I know. And what happens is when you embark on something like spirituality, where you're coming really close to source, you learn more and you go, fuck, I know nothing. So then you want to just keep going down this rabbit hole, and it kind of expedites to this point where you're so far away from the average Joe operating in a Western society. Maybe if you were to go speak to the monks, they would look at you and be like, you don't get it, man.
Mm.
So there is probably levels to the things, right? But I wonder, like, if there is a point where if you're choosing to stay operating in a Western culture, are you making your life harder by going to extremes?
I think that there's so much in this inquiry. And I would say, what if you could achieve the same thing that you just said, like your central nervous system's more relaxed, you don't get jacked up from everything, and everything matters.
What do you mean?
Like the opposite of nothing matters, like everything matters.
But then your central nervous system can still be calm. So you're not phased by it. It's just like you're regulated.
Yeah, like everything matters, and you're still calm and regulated and participating in the world, but it doesn't have the same grip on you that it had. And it's not because you went nihilist and you went into some self-delusional belief system to try to cope with the challenge of the material world. It's that you've mastered yourself enough that the material world and how you perceive it completely transforms, and actually everything matters. Everything matters. Every choice you make, every thought you have, every action that you take matters. And you are in charge of your choices as the soul.
Yeah, so it's about having choice. You're not letting things affect you unless you want it to.
You'll be honest at how it affects you, but you have the tools and the ability to meet it. It's not the idea that nothing can affect you is also a very transcendent spiritual ideal. And there's also the high achiever version of it, like, oh, I don't let this thing affect me. It's like sometimes things affect me, but the way I respond is more masterful than ever. And so it dissipates like a Tai Chi move. Instead I would push back, and now I just go like this.
Do you think this is something that, because I'm relating in this back in my mind to the Stoicism approaches of like the obstacle is the way, the hard time is the only way.
Right.
I kind of resonate with this message of like the more hard shit you go through, the easier your life will become. I do really like this idea because we're comparing our experience based on our past experiences a lot of the time. And if we haven't gone...
Which is a trauma response.
It's a trauma response. I mean, yeah, we can label it that, but like...
I'm like teasing a little bit because we had a whole... Keep going. It's just...
Well, I'm just trying to process this in my mind, but I'm thinking that there's this element of when you go through a certain challenge, it takes a challenge greater than that to be phased again. And so like... everything's relative to what we've experienced in the past. I wonder if you can access this level of calm nature that the Stoics would explain about going through challenge and life getting easier. I wonder if you can access it through becoming closer to source without going through challenge, or do you feel like the challenge is what makes you want to deep dive into spirituality in the first place?
You know, again, everyone's on their own unique journey. So from the high achiever lens, if you require challenge to grow, you will create challenges to grow.
What you're looking for, you'll find. If that's what you think the answer is, you're going to...
So put it this way. This is one analogy that might help explore the possibility that you can grow without having to have an Everest to climb every couple months. You know, that there could be a satisfaction of taking like the Pradasha around Everest, and like that's also fulfilling to take the like walk around it, and like you have satisfaction, and you smell some of the roses along the way, and you make love to your woman in the field, and you sit and you have a moment of deep resourced stillness where your kidneys get recharged by the earth because you lay on the ground for a little bit, you have a nap, you enjoy your book, and somehow three sales closed without you having to do anything by the time you get back to the, like,
I love this. Yeah, it's fucking great.
Yeah, you didn't have to climb Everest to do that, right? So our subconscious will attract things into our life with equal power as our higher self. They both have equal power to co-create our reality. Our job is to come into the authority of the soul, to listen to the natural current. The natural current of life is always smarter than our minds, our constructs, our frameworks around how reality should work or how we think it works. And it's the gradual process of getting more and more attuned to how it actually works. The ability to be with reality as it is, not how we want it to be. And when we do that, it's like, oh wow, that river, you could say surfing is a great analogy. The best surfers, you're from you're from Australia, mate. This is a great analogy. Come on, let's go. So, the best surfers aren't trying to paddle out every second. They're just pushing themselves, and the best surfers are waiting in the exact right location and are using precision and timing and effortlessness effort to catch the best waves. There's still effort. And from the outside in, it's like, whoa, how did they, like a flow state, right? They entered the zone, right? There's sports analogy for the Tao.
Yeah, well, that's when your nervous system is most relaxed.
Right.
You're in that theta state. Is that what it is? A
There's
parasympathetic state?
Theta, delta, beta, alpha, they all bring different types of flow, right? Different types of flow. But I'm not exactly sure which brainwave is when you're in that kind of sports flow state, if you will. But what I'm saying is that
the opposite of fight or flight, whatever that is.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you are fully regulated and your mind is not interfering, it's not calculating. You become what's happening.
And when you're in that state, you can access muscle memory. But when you're not in that state and you're tensed up and you're shocked and you're in this fight or flight state, I remember Salim Najjar was telling me that all of your muscle memory goes out the door. And if you look at these athletes that are taking the winning shot,
right,
and there's so much pressure on them and they swish it like it was nothing.
Yeah.
In their mind, it's another shot at practice.
Right.
And they've shot 800 of these before this one shot. So, of course, the shot was easy.
Right.
They're allowing their nervous system to be regulated in the chaos, which is typically hard to do.
Right. And this is what I call integrative spirituality. You asked if we can go too far with spirituality. Absolutely. I went completely down way too much plant medicine, more than like 5 people in a lifetime. That kind of going into the jungle with the mystics in India. I've had that journey, but for me, it was about how could I integrate it into life? How could I actually make it make sense in my relationships, in the things that I wanted to create in the world, in how I could heal my body? Because I had a healing crisis when I was 22 that I had to heal myself from. It's like where spirituality goes too far is when you're disconnected from reality. But what also people call reality in the Western world is not necessarily reality either. So there's a middle path where spirituality is informing us of things that will help us become better versions of ourselves because we're aligning with our soul. And we don't have to abandon our relationships. We don't have to become a renunciate to become a compassionate, more well-equipped, more regulated being. Mm-hmm. And that's really for me what integrated spirituality is about. Is like, how do you take mysticism and make it grounded enough to make sense in our lived experience, in our day-to-day lived experience?
Do you think there's no coincidences?
I think there's things that we call coincidence. I think there's destiny. I think there's synchronicity. I love synchronicity as a affirmation that you're on the right path. That there's I call it, for some people that are newer to this or like following the spiritual breadcrumbs, and you're like, oh, synchronicity, and then go around, all of a sudden you meet the perfect person for the perfect thing, and it unfolds effortlessly. Like, you didn't have to climb Everest for that connection. It's like you have some kind of destiny with this being. You can feel there's a love between you. You met them once, you're like, I've known you forever, and it's not like a projection onto them. You're not like, ooh, you're this thing. It's not like rosy glasses. It's just like you feel a resonance, and you know that they're supposed to be a part of your life, and you're supposed to be a part of theirs. Right? That's a tangible spiritual thing. I think what people call spirituality, when it actually is very different. There's a lot of frameworks, there's a lot of philosophies, there's a lot of different lineages, there's a lot of different ways that we could be more with reality or be less with reality, right? And you can use anything. You can use human design, you can use yoga, you can use ayahuasca, you can use any of it to come more into relationship with the truth of what is and the more of truth of how reality works, or you can use it to try to escape reality. So spirituality is a double-edged sword, just like anything. Just like money has its shadow and its light, just like any human being has their shadow and the light. Same thing with spirituality.
Yeah. The coincidence pillar, when you speak to people, it's like there's no coincidences because everything's all meant to be. Right. It's all, I guess the line I always use all the time is everything's perfect, divine, and right on time. And it's a freeing feeling because what comes with that is trust.
That's it.
And I think the trust is what is freeing.
Mm.
When we can just trust that it's actually meant to be. Like, this didn't get pushed onto us for no reason.
Right.
Like, we may not like the way it feels right now, but it doesn't mean it wasn't supposed to be presented to us.
Right.
And I like this idea of believing in that. And this is honestly why I think religion has such a big uptake, is because it's allowing people to access trust. You know, I'm not religious, and so I don't know specifically, but a common theme that I've felt is people being able to go, oh, it's God's plan. Like, God, it's all part of the process. And so if you can access that feeling and the freeing nature that comes with that, however you want to access it, whether it's through any version of God that you believe in, source, universe, whatever it is.
Some form of a higher power.
Yeah. Being able to have this trust is the most freeing thing. Like, I remember, you wouldn't have seen anything, but all this drama went down, and I was like most very spoken about news in Australia for like a couple of weeks, getting flamed about something I said. Anyway, I remember how calm I felt in the moment, and when I was reflecting on it, the reason for the calmness is because there was so many synchronicities that lined up all around it, and it just gave me so much trust that everything's perfect and it's actually all meant to be. And it was this positive feedback loop of going, I feel so much trust in this process and that everything's meant to be. And the fact that I was not fazed by what was perceived to be such a massive storm, it was a positive feedback loop that reminded me of, fuck, if I can go through this, I can go through.
Right. That's what faith becomes, is we see that in the moments that we doubted and life still showed up, that we were okay. And we learned to like exercise that muscle over and over and over again. Well, last time I felt like this, I took the step into the unknown and it worked out. You build it, like, trust in life is a type of faith. That's why you're saying you're applying it to religion. I could say a lot about that, but I think you're onto something very accurate, which is parallel to my own experience. That the more that I trust life, the more that life shows up. And I also think that there can be a bypassy version of it with spirituality and religion, where it's just like, oh, it was meant to be, and we use it to like avoid self-responsibility or the impact of our choices, which is a slippery slope. And there's a balance of like actually attuning to, okay, like I actually am fully trusting life in this moment, and it's working out for that, versus something's really challenging me and I'm using some kind of, you know, self-talk to make it have some meaning that maybe it doesn't actually have.
It's like, no, you were wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, well, no, you fucked up here.
You fucked up.
And maybe, yeah.
And there's consequences to that. It's not divine. I mean, it's divine ultimately, but like, yeah.
And so maybe there's this element of taking it too far where you don't take any accountability.
Bingo.
And a level of introspection and reflection and inward looking needs to be had to be able to go, okay, did I do this with any malicious intent? No. Did I hurt anyone in the process intentionally or not unintentionally? Did I? Have I learnt from this? Because obviously it hasn't gone to plan. I'm still trusting that it's all meant to be. This failure was meant to be. But have I grown from this so I don't get put in at the same in this spot again?
Yeah.
Like maybe I burnt a friendship, and I don't want to burn friendships all the time. And maybe I can like live in this mental frame of this was meant to be. But the reality is if you don't learn from that, you're going to just burn all your friendships and you're going to be fucking alone. And so have I been able to grow from this thing that did not go to plan? A. And what am I changing based on those lessons to be able to be more aligned with my soul in service of others and not harming anyone else? Fuck, if we could like just onboard all of that during term of hardship, I feel like that's a great spot to start.
It's very hard to trust when our trust is being stretched to the very edge of our, we're always going to meet a new edge if we're really committed to growth. if we're really committed to the things that we say we want to create in the world, we're going to hit new edges. And I think that you've touched on some really awesome things to consider in that journey. Trusting life is one of the greatest gifts and challenges that we all have to face in our life.
Dude, I want to commend you. I feel like there was this unlock. I don't know what I experienced up there before to loop it all back in. Don't know what's going on. Still a bit loopy, to be honest. I remember it actually hit me about 10 minutes into this conversation. I started getting a bit like, I was like, I'm a bit spaced right now. But it all kind of like came to me, and it's interesting, very calm, definitely feel really good. And I think just having you bounce cool ideas, and I feel like we came up with some really cool things today, and I just want to commend you for all the work you're doing. I think it's amazing. Is there anything you want to share before we close out?
Do you have a prompt or just general share?
I got no prompts, man. I mean, look, we covered a lot. I feel like I'm quite happy with it. It's an inspiring chat. And I think there's this underlying nature of what we've been talking about around, firstly, extreme agency and just taking ownership on what's been happening. And I think looping it back into that, like, let's not pull up a chair and sit down in these tunnels.
Yeah.
I don't think it's serving you or anyone around you, because it's not allowing you to show up as your best self. But yeah, I think we uncovered a lot, and it was, I think it navigated well, and I thank you. Yeah.
All right. So just to close on the dark tunnel thing, is that you'll have to pass through dark tunnels, but you don't have to do it alone. Like, the third option is actually like finding someone that's been through a dark tunnel and working with them, because they can guide you from it. They can like literally like from the other side be like, hey, you're going a little too far left. Hey, you're going a little too far right. Okay, right there. See what that feels like? What's that right there? Okay, notice that feeling. That's more the truth of who you are, right? Stay there. And then, but you still have to walk through the tunnel, but it's okay to have support. We don't have to do all of it alone. Like, we just don't. And we're not meant to, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love that. And just being able to have the humility to be able to seek out that help in the event that you need it, and have the trust in the fact that you can get help. So yeah, thank you so much, Luke.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, bro. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. We're signing out, and we'll see you guys very, very soon. Bye-bye.
Aloha.